I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. We've been saying it over and over again. Look, we've coined the term of what MAGA stands for. Make attorneys get attorneys. And as special counsel Jack Smith's criminal investigation into Donald Trump's 2020 election interference, I think, is nearing its end, we are hearing a lot about special counsel Jack Smith focusing on Donald Trump's lawyers, former lawyers, who did anything but act like lawyers, but instead acted like criminal co-conspirators. And I'm talking about people like John Eastman and Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell and Jeff Clark and Ken Chesbrough, and also many other lawyers, Jenna Ellis, many other lawyers too, whose names you may not have heard, but they were working in the various states like Wisconsin and Georgia and Nevada and Michigan, effectuating the overall conspiracy to try to overthrow our democracy. And I like that the reporting is kind of catching up to our reporting here at the MeidasTouch Network. But when there are other validators of the reporting that we previously have delivered, I want to show it to you because I think, especially where it's coming from some somewhat right-wing media. Wall Street Journal, of course, is right-wing, but when it comes from sources like the Journal, particularly, I think it shows that there's also a real kind of imminent nature of what Special Counsel Jack Smith's investigation is kind of wrapping up. And it also, to me, signals that usually when people leak to like the Journal or the Post, Murdoch-controlled papers against Trump, it's usually also coming from Republicans. So I always like to see who is pushing, who are the sources that are pushing these stories. And here's the story by the Journal. Jack Smith probe of 2020 election challenges focuses on Trump's lawyers. By the way, you've been watching the MeidasTouch Network. We've been saying this. So this is what it says. It goes, Special Counsel's Jack Smith's team in recent weeks has taken a growing interest in the role of lawyers and other figures involved in legal efforts aimed at reversing Donald Trump's loss in the 2020 election. Well, interesting phraseology there by the Wall Street Journal. You mean overthrowing our democracy? You mean in the efforts to try to turn America into an authoritarian fascist regime? Okay, but go on. Prosecutors from Smith's team have issued subpoenas and asked questions centered on several key figures in those post-election efforts, including Sidney Powell, a pro-Trump lawyer who spread baseless claims of widespread voter fraud. The subpoenas have also requested communications with Emily Newman, a lawyer who worked with Powell, and Mike Roman, a Republican operative who headed election day operations for the Trump campaign and dispatched lawyers to swing states before November 2020. Right, 2 points I want to make right now. First, Michael Roman, of course, is cooperating with the Department of Justice, cooperating with Special Counsel Jack Smith's team, has entered into a proffer agreement, meaning he's going to tell Jack Smith everything about the crimes he committed and the crimes that he observed. Mike Roman was the head of Election Day operations. He was the person, the foot soldier, actually tasked with carrying out the fake elector scheme by Trump's lawyers. So the fact that you got Michael Roman cooperating with Special Counsel Jack Smith could not be bigger. And that's, of course, why you also find out that Rudy Giuliani is also cooperating with Special Counsel Jack Smith's team. Rudy Giuliani had a proffer session, a voluntary interview where Giuliani spilled the beans, told Special Counsel Jack Smith and his team everything as well, which is big that you've got Giuliani now cooperating. And notice Giuliani's been very, very, very silent lately, other than reposting tweets that mention his cooperation. So that's always interesting. And he did say he had an insurance agreement against Donald Trump that would prevent him from going to jail. That, if it was required, he would use at the right time. So those are individuals who are cooperating. That's point one. The second point that I wanted to make is just, you may be wondering, well, don't lawyers represent criminals all the time? Like, is it criminal to represent a criminal? No. It's fundamental to our constitutional system that people who are accused of crimes have the right to a lawyer. In fact, it's a constitutional right to have the right to a lawyer. And if you can't afford one, one is appointed to you. You get a public defender either at the state or federal level. And so it's not representing a criminal or someone accused of a crime that is problematic. The issue becomes when the lawyer is used to commit more crimes. Then there is no attorney-client relationship anymore, and the law doesn't recognize any attorney-client privileges. So if someone's accused of a heinous murder and they're being represented by a lawyer, it's not illegal for the lawyer to represent that individual. But if the lawyer then helps the client conceal evidence, obstruct justice, and threaten witnesses, well, then the lawyer's not being a lawyer anymore. The lawyer's committing crimes. If the lawyer then goes on and harms someone or causes injury or damage to someone, clearly that's not part of the attorney-client relationship. Similarly, people who have been representing Donald Trump, whether it's a John Eastman or a Giuliani or Evan Corcoran or an Emily Newman or, Sidney Powell. You could represent someone in a case, but when you then are out there committing fraud, when you are then out there trying to overthrow the democracy, you're not acting as a lawyer anymore. And then there is a waiver to attorney-client privilege under what's called the crime fraud exception. So the article goes on to talk about how, of course, we remember that meeting that took place in late December of 2020, where, as mentioned in the January 6th committee hearings at the White House, where one of the individuals from Trump's team, Trump's kind of body man and personal aide, opened the door and let in like all the team crazy people, like the Sidney Powells and the Mike Flynn's and the Giuliani's and what people in the Trump administration call team crazy. And then some of the Trump lawyers who fashion themselves as team normal. I don't know how you have team normal in the Trump administration, but people like Eric Hirschman and Pat Cipollone and Patrick Feldman, Trump's other lawyers who were telling Donald Trump, you lost, give it up. There was this big fight that took place there in the White House, in the Oval Office. People were screaming at each other. Giuliani and Powell and Team Crazy were saying, seize the election machines, declare martial law, engage in all of this unlawful conduct. And the very next day, Donald Trump put out a post saying, January 6th, it's going to be crazy, show up. So lots of lawyers in that room, and special counsel Jack Smith is zeroed in on what took place in that room. So that's a major, major, major focus as well. The article goes on to say that one of the things that they were focused on with Giuliani, prosecutors questioned Giuliani about the role of other lawyers, including John Eastman, who was one of the architects of the strategy to stop Congress from certifying Biden's victory and sought to persuade. Again, this is how Wall Street Journal threatened Mike Pence not to certify the votes for Biden and to stop the certification process. Giuliani and Eastman were central figures in the so-called war room at the Willard Hotel, a five-star hotel in downtown Washington, where some of Trump's most loyal advisors worked to overturn the election results. And look, here's what I think is going to happen. And you could see it from this article. I mean, I think Eastman is going to be indicted by Jack Smith, and by Fulton County District Attorney Phony Willis. Even though Giuliani's cooperating, I think you see Giuliani may even take a plea agreement to some smaller charges and ultimately cooperate. But I think he'll be charged by Jack Smith. I think he'll be charged by Fulton County District Attorney. He's trying to cooperate, though, now, I think, to get out of jail time. Sidney Powell, I think you'll see charges brought against. Jeff Clark, you will see charges brought against, in my opinion. I think you'll see charges brought against this new individual who, not new individual, but new in terms of us talking about her, potentially brought against Emily Newman. I think in connection with Special Counsel Jack Smith's investigation into the theft of documents as well. That's still ongoing, even with the indictment being filed. Boris Epstein's name is talked about a lot. I think we'll see potentially, in my opinion, an Epstein indictment. So these are all Trump's lawyers. MAGA make attorney, get attorneys. And to see this now being confirmed by the Wall Street Journal, I think adds another layer to it. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 1.5 million subscribers thanks to your support. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Wherever you get audio podcasts, subscribe to the MeidasTouch podcast. Have an excellent day.
Hey, Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.